is from the University of Belgrano, and she's going to talk about the multi-use cadastre that has been developed in Argentina. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to wait for them to put my presentation up. This is an academic exercise that was done. It is a 2-year project in collaboration with a group of students who are in the School of Architecture and Urbanism at the Belgrano University in Buenos Aires. For us, it's important because we worked in collaboration with the cadastre in Tierra del Fuego. It was a very interesting case to be able to be applied to our project. And the objective of the project is to have an innovative approach with respect to predictive elements. And we've done this in Tierra del Fuego because last year at this conference, I presented a study about an integrated framework of geospatial tools for effective land management. And those that completed the indicators were the directors of the different cadastres. And in Tierra del Fuego, the indicators indicated that geospatial data coordination with other entities that provide data for planning and land management, well, that there was very limited data and that it was very difficult to develop a multi-purpose cadastre. So why not work on this with Tierra del Fuego to see if we could try to improve this? From the academic point of view, another additional objective was added on, which was to include new issues in the preparation of new professionals. In the case of Argentina, most of the educational programs within the School of Architecture and Urbanism don't usually talk about land use planning, management, or cadastres. So we wanted to find those who worked with legal codes, civil code, urban planning codes, and include learning based on different cases to include knowledge to be able to manage geospatial information systems. It's part of the curriculum, but in a cross-cutting way. But there is no specific class on it or an opportunity to work on a project to learn about this. So this gave us the opportunity to generate knowledge, applied knowledge, and apply it to a real case, which was the Tierra del Fuego cadastre or land registry. The objectives were organized on 3 pillars. First of all, to detect in an anticipated way climatic events which could create risk. And we said fire maybe is the most important risk, although flooding is an important risk in that province as well. Second, generate a prototype for early vulnerability analysis of fires by connecting infrastructure, the occurrence of fires, the development of cities, and thus establish a contact with the cadastre of the province to have an exchange of information using modeling, preliminary modeling, based on an LDML that had to do with environmental issues. And so then apply this learning. To give you a general context, Argentina has 24 provinces, and each has its own cadastre. We are a federal system. Tierra del Fuego is that triangle at the end of the world there. Martin Barra, who is the director of the province or provincial cadastre, says that we are the cadastre of the end of the world. it only has 3 municipalities, but the dialogue today with respect to the exchange of geospatial data among those 3 municipalities, it's not being handled in the same way. It's not being coordinated in the same way. The geospatial data at a national level exists, and the province is also doing so in Tierra del Fuego. And the 3 municipalities are also developing their own. However, the mechanism to exchange information from the point of view of a multi-purpose cadastre is in an incipient or very beginning phase, let's say. Now, the province has in recent years been exposed to the impact of climate change. We've seen many events, especially fires in forests, forested areas, which are close to small towns, not close to big cities that are more urbanized, but there are small towns close to these forest reserve areas. Now, with respect to methodology, we worked in 3 phases. 2 of which are completed, and the 3rd, which is still before us. In a first stage, we looked at remote sensing and to get information from open sources, satellite information, to do early analysis of the occurrence of fire. In a second phase, we combined this data, this open data, with data from the Republic of Argentina and open information that is available from ArcGIS, the Living Atlas, which allows us to work on geographical information. And finally, we established the potential relationships with these layers with respect to an early warning system of disasters, and this allowed us to develop some studies with our students, preliminary diagnostics, and then we were able to build some layers about fires. And we could study maps of forest areas where we had native forest, coastal reserves, and look at the topography, geographical features, establish patterns of historical patterns of the occurrence of forests. Now, I don't want to do a deep dive with respect to the technology, but I did want to tell you about what were the different learning that we were able to obtain from that. For example, we had a burned area index that was possible thanks to the use of Sentinel-2, Landsat-9. We were able to come up with that. We did a mapping of burned area severity. This allowed for more complete evaluation of the incidence, of the impact of risk factors on Tierra del Fuego. We also looked at historically the fire return interval based on models that had already been researched, but also being able to apply satellite data with respect to Tierra del Fuego and do some comparisons between systems, BIRS and MODIS, that have information from 2000, and then in the other case from 2003. And so we were able to also clean up the data with respect to occurrence. And so we see what the fires do to this territory, and we were able to understand the impact and how it affects new vegetation and how it affects infrastructure of the towns that are close to these vulnerable forests or those that are more exposed to environmental factors. And so we were able to determine variables for vulnerability, and based on fuel, precipitation, temperature, height, paths. With all this information, we were able to build indicators, models, and layers of information to cross that with a second phase, which is what is happening in the urban areas, what's happening in the cadastre. And then we worked with the provincial government. We looked at the open information we had. And the truth is, it was quite difficult to connect up this information because the provincial system is still not prepared for this process. So we continue to work with all the available information that is open information. And so we have Tolwyn and another city, which we zeroed in on. We have this pre and post fire situation in a forest that is near some towns, and we then have an LADM model and different risk factors, and we have actually a workshop, a collaborative workshop with the provincial cadastre. The Ministry of the Environment is providing information that has to do with climate change, risks, and municipalities. To conclude, therefore, being able to adapt geospatial technology and explore these issues with it is a best practice to be able to have a dialogue and build more collaborative work with provincial governments in our countries, establishing standards that allow for the sharing of information, breaking out of our silos, and people, well, we have this fragmented information in silos. We need to break out of that, and we need to have more flexible and democratic parameters with respect to information. And also we need to overcome these obstacles and have more independent and agile ways of working. So students use GIS because they really, if they like it, can explore it and then go on to get a master's degree, for example, in it. And if they go out into the professional world and know how to use GIS, they can really contribute to our countries. And usually the students in architecture don't think about, again, the cadastre. These are the students who are in their last year. We also have our professors here. And we have a laboratory for Earth observation, a MERA geo network of Earth observation laboratories. And this laboratory has been really helping us. I want to thank the laboratory for its help, the group on Earth observations, and thank the province of Tierra del Fuego for all the exchange of information. Thank you.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much, Bárbara. We see here that in the Belgrano University, we are looking at how to integrate information planning, land use management. Bárbara, you emphasized throughout your presentation a challenge that we're all facing, and it is the coordination of different levels of governance over information, for example. And you talked about the national level, the decentralized province level, and then we see at the province what level of information they have and how to work with that. During the different meetings this week, we've talked about land use planning instruments, land use management, risk management. We'd like to have this integrated, optimal system, and no one ever has that, or almost never. And so how do we work with other mechanisms to get more information and better information? Information that allows us to develop instruments. You spoke about how to obtain information. What's the entry point? Collect information, how to use it, and how you've worked with the municipality to integrate into their instruments, risk management, land use planning, data that you produce. So coordination is key. And those other 2 points, where do I get the information? And after having made the effort, how to use the information on the ground. Finally, I'd like to give the floor to Ana Gomez. She is from the University